Hey everyone, my name is Candis Dyer and this is Canna Corner. We are live on the Candis Dyer Facebook page every Monday, normally at 7 o'clock. There's some Mondays that I take off, but pretty much every Monday at 7 o'clock. So if you go to the Candis Dyer Facebook page and you hit the bell, you'll get notified every time we go live. So then you'll know. Also, we got an amazing guest today, and it's going to be Mary Jane Borden. She wants to come on and talk about the importance of voting and voting green. I can't wait to introduce y'all to her. But first, I wanted to give a big, huge shout out to our sponsors, Roach and Bud, KM420 Radio, and The Edge Show, as well as Go Green Botanicals. Big shout out to all of them. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't do what we do. Y'all rock. We love y'all, and we love all the support that you give. So also you can catch the Candis Dyer, all the replays and all the older shows on my Canna Corner on YouTube. And yeah, so I think we can bring our guest on now. I'm so excited. As y'all all know, we are in the time right now to start voting. And if you are anything like me, then you know, I look at the voter thing and I'm like, who do I vote for? Who? Because half of them don't, you can't trust a lot of them anyway, so it's hard to know who to vote for. So my guest today, Mary Jane Borden, is here to talk all about voting, the importance of voting, and voting green. She wrote an article. Hey, Mary. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and talk about the article that we're going to be chatting about today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show tonight, Candace. Really appreciate it because I think this is a prime time to get the message out there about voting. Now, a lot of people, what is it, some 20 million have already actually voted. I'm one of them. But for those of you who've not yet voted, this might be the thing that you need to inspire you to do it, and then to figure out exactly what candidates that you want to pin your name to, really. So,
exactly.
What I did, I've been doing this kind of work for 20 to 40 years, depending on how you count it. And one of the things that I did in my prior life was I was an analyst for a big pharmaceutical company. And so I learned how to do that kind of analytical work. And so I've applied it in different venues and things that in the cannabis reform movement, because I'm just an ardent supporter of cannabis legalization and re-regulation and stuff like that. And so my passion being cannabis, I've penned in a number of articles to the Columbus Free Press. This is actually my 98th article.
Wow. Okay.
98th article.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I thank you so much for all you do, because you've been in it for a while then.
So let's dive into the article. Now, if you want to follow along with me, it's on the website of the Columbus Free Press. Unfortunately, they had it really nice and big on top of the page a couple of days ago, but it moved down a little bit. So about in the middle of the page, you'll see it's called Cannabis in the Midterms. You can follow along there.
I just shared it in our
copy here. Pardon me?
I just shared it in the chat too for anybody. That way they can go look.
Perfect. We can follow along with me. Great. So let's get started. And I call it Vote Because Your Life Depends on It, because really it just might. There's some reasons why we as cannabis patients, for example, it's very important who's in control, whether it's at the state level or whether it's the federal level or what have you. So voting is essential. Voting is essential to determine who's going to make the laws that we utilize every day to access this plant, or conversely, they take it all away from us and make it illegal again. They can do that. And so I said, vote like your life depends on it, because it just might. The first thing I want to do, the first thing I want to do in this is kind of the technical stuff of it. It's basically, they always tell you to plan your vote. Okay, plan your vote. Why, kind of the way they read it, it sounds like they're talking about, well, I'm going to plan to go up to the elementary school in the corner and cast a ballot. What really it means, I think, that if you're a serial voter like I am, you want to know who you're voting for before you go in there, because
Right.
you'll be handed all those sheets of paper and you're just standing there and there's the Democrats, the Republicans, and you go, I don't know where to find anything.
Right.
So if
And
you
then
reference
there's just
something
the
like what I've
name,
written here,
and
pardon?
there's just the name, and it's very confusing, and you don't know as a cannabis consumer who is for you, who's against you, unless you follow it all the time. So this is amazing. I love what you got going on.
Yes, definitely, definitely. That's what I was hoping to do, is to identify those candidates that we as a community could support. Because, okay, I'm going to go back to the article real quick, and then I'm going to divert to something else. Okay, because the first part of it, I just want it is the mechanics of voting. You know, it's the first thing you got to do is make sure you're registered. Probably your registration deadline is long past, so that might be a difficult issue this year.
Right.
But register now. If you're not registered to vote, register now, because we need you in a future election. And those elections will come. We're going to have a primary election in the spring. We'll have a primary, have an off-term election for doing something. I bet you it may be adult use could be on the ballot next year. You want to be able to vote for that, don't you?
Right.
Make sure you're registered. Okay, register now if you're not already registered. And so when you the best place to do that is with the Ohio Secretary of State's office. And in my article, I link various different things that you can find the Secretary of State's office. First of all, validating whether you are registered to vote, what your polling location is. Um, you, let's see what else we have here. Um, those kinds of things that are really important. And the other thing I say, that when I say plan your vote, what I mean to also is you plan who you're going to vote for before you get in there. Okay, we kind of covered that just briefly. And so this is actually the midterm. A lot of people say, I'm going to bluff the midterm. Nothing interests me here. Well, tell you what, cannabis is always on the ballot. Always on the ballot, because we're electing state reps, we're electing federal reps, we're electing judges, and they're the people who are going to be evaluating, either passing the laws or evaluating the laws that have already been passed.
Right.
And that makes a big difference. And so it's even though it's a midterm, it's not the general election that gets so much hype, but this is a very important election. I think it's one of those ones this particular time around. We're such a divergent country that it's going to kind of determine the direction we take in the future. And it's very important to us as the cannabis consumer community to get our voices in this whole mix. All right.
Right.
So, and I'm saying here, why vote? Why vote? All right. Why do you want to go through the heck of it? All right.
Yeah, a
Well,
lot
as I
of
say,
people.
I like this. Pardon me?
Sorry. At this point, I wanted to point out. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Well, my vote don't count anyway." I don't trust them. I don't know who to vote for. So for those people, what do you say? Because you were getting there.
Yeah. So I'll say a couple of things. First of all, I could put it in front of me, but I'm going to have to go off the top of my head. But right now, there is, if we frame it the proper way, there's a such thing as the marijuana vote. Now, when several years ago, actually more like about 10 years or 15 years ago, I did an analysis on that, because I was able to compare with the data that's called from a survey called the National Survey on Drug Use and Health,
Right.
NSDUH. And this is a survey that's put up by the federal government every year, and it's basically trying to figure out who the percentages of who uses cannabis regularly, or who uses cannabis, once a month, once a year, what have you. And so there's an actual metric on that says something to the effect. We'll just do real quick here so I can change over here, get you the right data. Okay. And this is a 2018 analysis, because there was a whole lot of voter turnout back then.
Right.
I estimated that based upon the National Survey of Drug Use and Health data matched against census data, that approximately 13 million people could be counted as a cannabis vote, because according to that survey, they're among the percentage that uses cannabis once a month.
Right.
I would consider that person a cannabis voter, because they're
Right.
a person who's you do it a little bit more frequently, and you're probably a little bit more into it than the person who maybe does it once a year. Okay, so those are people do it monthly. Now, if I boil that down to Ohio, and again, are you in Texas,
Yes,
Candace?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's
Okay,
hard
I don't
here.
know if I could pull a Texas off. I can't pull Texas off this particular page of analysis. We're just gonna have to work with Ohio, but the same analysis would work in Texas as it would
Right.
work here.
I'll just
So,
let people in Texas know that you can go to the normal website, and they have a great thing about how they show you where to vote, who to vote for, and everything. So just follow them for updates in Texas. Sorry, go ahead.
well, excellent idea, but with the framing I'm shooting for here is that I could tell you, this is kind of calculations and things like that, but I could tell you that in the 2018 election, 4.5 million Ohioans voted in it.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And I know Texas would be probably double that.
Yeah, right. It's a little bigger.
Now, okay, if I looked at the 13 million voters, as I said, would be cannabis voters in Ohio, that's 401,000 cannabis voters. All right. That's a lot of people. Now, we're a state of about 11 million people, but still, if you're considering that we've got, the turnout was 4.5 million, we're, 400,000 is a lot of people. And if we all voted as a block, we could change the world.
Yes.
Now, remember this also. Now, we have a medical marijuana program here in Ohio. I don't think you guys do quite yet.
We do. It's a very, it's a start. It's not.
Every place
No
is a good start.
Yeah, only tinctures and gummies, and no smokable, and very low THC count. So it's like getting there, but.
Well, the important point I'm going to try to draw from here, because Ohio just released we actually have a program here, and it's able to count the patient. I know maybe they do this in Texas as well, but they count the number of patients. So as of the last tabulation here, I'm going to go again because I keep flipping back and forth because I don't read my data correctly. There's a historical registration of 309,000 patients. So that's kind of matching up with my 400,000 voters, cannabis voters, don't you think?
Yes.
And think of it this way: when the survey Direct Houston Health, this particular data analysis that they're giving us, they're counting in terms of patients and things like that. I count it in terms of voters.
Right.
So just change your framing a little bit. Instead of saying, oh, it's 309,000 patients. No, that's 309,000 voters.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Voters who are registered patients. Listen up. Texas, same with Texas too. Same with Texas, same with Maryland, same with any other state in the union. You have far more power than you think you have. 309,000 is a decent number of people. If every one of us voted for the candidates that support us, you see how we could change the world?
Right.
Okay? And that's one reason why we vote. Now, here's the other reason why we vote. I'm going back to my article. And so you think that nobody's on the ballot. Here's what's on the ballot. 1 U.S. Senator, this is Ohio. Okay, remember this is Ohio. 1 U.S. Senator, 15 U.S. representatives, 33 Ohio senators, 99 Ohio representatives, 3 Supreme Court seats, 7 local ballot initiatives, and 4 executive branch officials that include the governor and lieutenant governor. That's 165 individuals who are on the ballot that we will be voting on, or we should be voting on.
Right.
Making these decisions. And so it's a decent number of people that we have to be able to direct these people in our direction, so that they're the people who are in those seats are supporting us as a community. All right. Okay. Us, the 409,000, Ohio voters who would be considered cannabis voters. Okay. Marijuana
exactly.
voters. So yeah, that's why you should vote. You are actually a lot of us out there, more than you might think, and we have plenty on the ballot that really is going to make a difference in our lives if we vote. Depending upon how we vote, could make a good difference, could make a bad difference. Okay,
right.
I think historically we see it's making a bad difference. And so the thing that when you understand the data and how the elections are actually worked, How many elections have we run across just in the recent times? I don't want to go into election fraud and contesting elections right now, but in the same respect, some of the elections are such narrow margins. They might be a narrow margin, no more than 100 votes or 200 votes.
Right.
Let's say it's 1,000 votes. We right there, and I said our 409,000 voters can fill in that gap, because elections are won on the margins. Okay, so the marginal vote makes all the difference in the world. We should be, hopefully, I'm hoping the politicians are listening here, because they need to court our vote and say, we can be your marginal vote. We can be that vote that puts
Yep.
you in office. All right.
Exactly.
So that's what I mean. You could have a margin of, I've seen elections as close as 10 people. 10 people make that difference between putting this gal in office who is totally opposed to cannabis, or this guy in the office who's totally in favor.
Right.
Okay? Right. All right. So, but what happens, I think, is that people tend to, strangely enough, vote against their own self-interest. I don't know how people pull this off.
I really think they don't know.
Yeah,
I really think they don't know. They don't understand the political, because this is me. They don't understand the political, their agendas and stuff, and they need somebody to say, hey, this person believes in this stuff and this person believes in this stuff, and you want to vote. They really want to be directed at where to vote, who to vote for. Like that's the thing. Like, they're confused. They don't know.
I think there certainly is an element of that. And, we're busy people. How many of us have the time to sit down and spend, half a day going through mailers we get? They're inundated our mail,
Yeah. And then if they're telling the truth or not, because a lot of them will be like, oh, yeah, I'm pro-green. And then when they get elected, they're not. And so that's frustrating, too. Like, you don't know who's telling the truth.
Well, I think there's ways that you can find out. And we're going to cover that. There's ways that you can discern that, because I looked at the same thing. I said, okay, I want to help people determine who to vote for, but what are the metrics that will be basically say you're a supporter and you're not so much,
right?
And I could actually put pen and paper to that. So I did that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about self-interest, because a lot of people, I don't know how. I've never been a person to vote this way, but I think there's some people that say, that girl is so good looking, I'm going to vote for her. That guy is so hot, I'm going to vote for him.
Right.
Not the way to vote.
Yeah, definitely not.
No. But people do it because
Right.
I don't know what else to do, because I don't have the other data.
Mini, miny, mo. Okay, that person looks good. Sure.
Yeah. I really like your shirt.
Wow.
So yeah, does it matter if they have a Harvard degree, or does it matter if they worked at a steel mill? Does it matter, what is it that matters? One thing that I found really interesting in looking at the data this cycle, and I've worked with the people who run the Green Party for decades, but we're so binary now. We're so binary that I'm missing the candidacy of the libertarians and the Greens. And I was looking for this stuff, trying to figure out, who are the candidates and who are they running. In 2012, one of the Green Party candidates got about 5% of the vote in Ohio's gubernatorial race, which allowed the party to come in and monitor elections. So the Green Party has been out there in full force, as has libertarians for decades, but for some reason we're just not hearing much noise. And I'll apologize if they're out there making much noise that I missed. But what a point I'm trying to make here, it seems right now that the state of the country is that it's binary, and so I hate to use say these words, but they're Republicans and Democrats. I hate to say it, but I don't have to say it.
No,
anyway.
It's there. We need to talk about it.
Guys, I had to do it.
It's there. We need to talk about it, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, you can have in some of these cases, you can write in candidates. Feel free to write in your candidate. But if a candidate was on the ballot was a pro-cannabis person versus a person who's anti-cannabis, and you write in that, you might miss an opportunity
to get the pro.
support a cannabis person.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of the situation we're in, and why I'm not getting a lot of noise and like a lot of love from either the Greens or the Libertarians or the multitude of other political parties that are out there. So
Yeah,
again, we're a binary.
some really good libertarians here in Texas. Mark Tippett is running again, and I'll tell you what, he got out there with signs when we did our walks, when we held up the he got out there with us and got people honking and stuff. And that's the kind of candidate I like. Somebody who's gonna come out and be a part of the people and be a part of what they want, not just stick up their nose, you know what I mean? And we're the people who vote for you. You need to get to know us and come out and learn with us and learn what we need. And he did that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And that's what the Greens were for us, because I worked for the Green Party.
Right.
For them so much, but with them over decades now. And I'm not saying this because out of lack of love for them.
Right.
I'm just saying this. It's a sad fallacy of the moment that we're in, where everything is just black and white, binary, one way or the other. And so we need kind of establish that if we're going to look at the playing field.
No, I get you.
Look at the playing field. You got to look at the whole playing field.
Right. Right.
So anyway, so yeah, the part of it's voting against your self-interest, which is why I think it's important that the material, look at my materials if you want to, but look at somebody else's materials. Normal does a good job of it. MPP, all these big major national organizations are putting out voter guides. The problem with their voter guides typically is they don't delve down into the local ones, like the Ohio rep or Ohio senator. So that's what I did. All right, but they do a pretty good job of identifying the national candidates.
Right.
But like a lot of us could do that because they're big name people.
Yes. Yes.
So that was a little pitch to say. I wanted to cite one thing here. There was a famous, it's very, very famous because it's very timely, the abortion situation in Kansas. Because for the longest time they thought Kansas was just this solid red state, and we're going to get our voters to use marginal issues like guns and prayer in schools and abortion really to drive their political system. And so I think they figured that all the Kansas people were just going to follow along and continue to vote against their own self-interest. So my thing is, people will vote against their self-interest until they don't.
Right.
And that's what happened in Kansas. All of a sudden, Kansas started voting in its self-interest, and it walloped the opposition. I mean, I think it was 49% to, I want to say 59 to 41% there was a margin there. And so people will vote against their self-interest until they won't. We want to be on the side of saying, stop voting against your self-interest, start voting in the interest of our movement, our common interest, which is cannabis. All of us have this common interest of cannabis and trying to advance the cannabis in the various spaces of our lives. So like I say, people vote against their self-interest until they don't anymore. Let's get them to stop doing it for cannabis.
Right.
The other part of self-interest is that the political parties aren't helping us any, because the political parties, how is it that we can have 68% Gallup approval rating for support for adult use legalization, but we can't get it through the House or Senate, the United States House or Senate? I mean, we can get it actually through the House. House goes, okay, that's fine, we'll do it. The Senate is a bottleneck, and so why? And I'm going to have to say this, sorry, Republicans, you're guilty here. We, the people, want this. We have shown you that we want you. We've shown you that we're responsible. We've set up a whole industry, but all you could do is give us some little appropriations bill where the whole industry, the entire cannabis industry, hangs on an appropriations bill that says the federal government is not allowed to go in to bust cannabis entities in states where it's legal. That's a little, this is not a law. This is an appropriations bill. And I like to say, the Lord giveth and the Lord can take it away. You used to get another party in there. They say, we're not going to put that rider in there. And our whole industry is going to be up in arms. They're going to be completely and made less so probably Texas, because I don't think you have it as advanced an industry, but you get a state like New York, you get a state like Illinois, you know, you could really throw a ringer in there and you say, okay, we're going to start arresting everybody.
Right.
And you know what the federal charges are for that level of growing? You're growing over 600,000 plants, or 60,000 plants, I would say, something like your $1 million, $100 million transactions. There's a life. If you get arrested by the feds, that's a life sentence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Federal law, that's a life sentence.
And there's a lot of states where the feds are coming in and busting cannabis places, and they're waiting for the money to be started transferred, like waiting for them to take the money and put it in the bank, you know, because they here in Texas, we have
put it in the bank.
Problem. Yes. And so they would pull these trucks over, take all the cash, and they got these federal fines now, and it was legal in their state. It's like, it's crazy.
That's because the wording of the appropriations bills in the states in which it's legal. So if they try to do it in Ohio, we got a legal market here, you know, we're able to transport where we want to because we're a legal market, and that's within the appropriations bill. But if you're a state that's Idaho, does not, one of the only 3 states that doesn't have a medical marijuana,
Right.
any marijuana program. And that's why you see people getting picked up in Idaho.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, like I say, why we can't get the politicians on our side, because we're block voters. You know, we 68% of the United. That's not just the cannabis community speaking. This is the Gallup poll saying, people in general saying 68%. We want legal cannabis. Sorry, don't you listen to your constituents?
Right.
It's not. And so what are the political party positions? Again, I have to be partisan here. I apologize to everybody, but I do have to do this. We talked about that. And so two parties hold divergent views. I think that's pretty safe to say. And the way I analyzed it was I looked at 3 bills. I looked at the Safe Banking Act. I looked at the MORE Act.
Yep.
Okay. And I looked at the most recent Marijuana Research Act. And these are 3 bills that have gone through the U.S. House. And really stalled in the Senate typically, but that's very telling there. Okay, if you can look through, let's say, their voting records, and that's another thing, is all this stuff is online. It's not hard to find.
Right.
You look through the voting records, for example, on the MORE Act, the Safe Banking Act, or the Research Act, you can kind of figure out who your candidates are. You know, take a guy like Tim Ryan. All right, and he was in the U.S. House. He voted for all 3 bills. All right, there's your candidate. All right, from the federal level.
Right.
So that was one way of doing it. Like I say, the Democrats tend to be more accommodating, because as I say, all 3 of those bills made it through the House.
Right.
So that's because the House is democratically controlled.
Right.
So that
I noticed that they both like to take a bill that, like, okay, say the Republicans put in a bill and the Democrats have a bill too, and they're basically the same. I've noticed that the Republicans will block the Democrats and the Democrats will block. It's just playing with people's lives. Like, we're sick of it. Like, you know what I mean? Who cares who wrote the bill? It's for the American people who you're working for. So just let it go through. Quit playing these stupid games. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. We're your constituents. You're trying to do what your constituents want. We want this. We have shown you that we want. Our polling says we have lobbyists. We got everything there, and they're saying, you know, no, we, for whatever reason, you know, we can get to that in a minute. So, like I said, the Democratic position is generally favorable. We've got, in fact, we've got within the Senate, we do have the Cannabis Administration Act that was opposed by Senator Schumer. It has been introduced. Probably not going to go anywhere because the session ends at the end of the year, but it's there.
Right.
He fulfilled his promise. And then I think what I wanted to talk real quickly too is about President Biden's recent announcement on the pardons, because
I'm
this is probably one of the
closely.
most significant acts. I've been at this business a long time. And this is probably one of the most significant developments I've seen, because sure, I think that people's records should be expunged, no question about it. But the key thing there, I think, is the the starting the rescheduling petition and him directing it through the Justice Department and not coming in as a petition from a third party. The
Right.
president is telling the Justice Department, you go in there and you tell me how this should be redone. And they're good, and they seem very receptive to doing this. It's not getting a lot of kickback from these agencies. So I think that is really significant. So if you're going to reward the Democrats, a lot of people don't like Biden, but I have to give him credit on this one.
I do. I give him credit for this. Yes.
Promise. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. It illustrates the point, as I say, that the Democrats are much more in favor than the Republicans are. Now there are some exceptions to the Republican rule. One of them is David Joyce, and he's an Ohio Republican from, I think, the Akron area. And I think he has introduced, I think, 2 bills in this session. One is, I think, it's an adult use bill, and the other was more like an expungement bill. Okay. But he's actually introducing bills, so he's showing his colors to be in our favor. And I would really say, okay, you're a Republican. A lot of your Republicans I don't like, but if you're living in the Akron area, he's your representative up there. Send him back to Congress. We need more like him. All right. We'll get to that in a minute. And then, but the other part of it is those, let's say, our favorite, less than favorite rep, famous Jim Jordan, is very much against it. Now this is all we'll get in the gerrymandering in a little bit here, but he is a product of an extraordinarily gerrymandered district. And so it's not surprising that he's catering to just a very narrow audience in his district. And that's going to be the antis. And he says in a letter to his constituent, he said, therefore, marijuana is properly scheduled as a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act.
And I don't know how they can say that, because the government owns the patent proving that cannabis cancer is being cured, tumors are shrinking, like there's studies. So and there are states that are using it medically. So how in the world can the federal government even say that it's not medical use? Like, I don't understand.
Well, it's because I basically understand, because it always goes back to the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 that Richard Nixon passed because he wanted to thump the African American population and what he called hippies, which he used to use the word liberals, substitute that for hippies. And that was his objective, was to marginalize this. And that's very successful. They've been extraordinarily successful at marginalizing people in the Controlled Substances Act. Oh yeah. Jim Jordan being a cheerleader for it, not helping his cause in my book. And there's many other reasons I could tell you to vote against Jim Jordan. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you, but based on marijuana, you're crazy if you're voting for him. Crazy. Anyway. And then there's another guy named Jim Banks who just chaired a 156-member Republican study commission, and he says Congress should not legalize marijuana while also taking steps to constrain the new industry's ability to harm children. Now, here's the example of what I'm saying about the appropriations bill. If we had a Republican control of the House, and that bill comes up for renewal, which it will in 2009, and what are we doing next year, 2023. They could nix it and not read and with a Republican majority and not have that protection. And all of a sudden you've got it's a $25 billion industry that's at the mercy of the feds. They're going to, and if you got to go back, maybe the people have lived long enough, like I have, remember where that's how ASA got its name, Americans for Safe Access, because they kept Asa Hutchinson, which was the drug czar back then, kept sending the police in to bust people in San Francisco. So that's what happens when we don't have that rider. Yep. Okay. Yeah. This is a guy right here. This guy. If these are the people who are going to control the U.S. House, these are the people who are not going to renew that appropriations bill. Let's say. So and they produce these reports. That's the reports I was just citing, that one study committee report. They have no data. Right. They all these big grandiose plans, like we're not going to take the steps to restrain the industry. They have no data to support it. Right. And of course, let's drill this down to old Mike DeWine in Ohio. He's our governor. I'm sorry, I feel so bad for you with Greg Abbott.
Oh God, I
I
know.
really feel bad for you guys.
Your big pharma is what I call him, because I really believe
Oh gosh.
pharma are
Just when I think we got it bad, you know. I'm kidding, right?
no, you're not. No, it's real.
But DeWine called adult use a mistake. That's a quote. That's in quotes. And he claims he will veto any adult use bill should come before him. And similar now, Huffman, who is listed in the same article that I'm quoting, has actually he's retired, so he's not a factor anymore. But fundamentally, what that pertains to is an adult use referendum. We have a really robust citizen initiative process in Ohio, and we can do it several different ways. One of them was the constitutional amendment, but another one is a referendum, which is actually a law that you collect signatures for, and it's placed before the General Assembly. And in theory, the General Assembly would, rubber stamp it and become law. Well, that's what this pertains to here, is when after the beginning of the year, the initiated statute that we had in Ohio collected its signatures, but got into some little squirmy thing where it missed its deadline to submit the signatures, but they had, I think it was a consent decree from the High Supreme Court to allow this process to go forward in 2023. So what DeWine's saying, I think he's figuring he's going to win. We don't know that, but he's figuring he's going to win. That he's
Fortunately, here in Texas, we can't petition. Like, we would have had cannabis a long time ago if we could, but we can't. They took that away from us, which I think it's just crazy.
Oh, it is. Well, politicians hate it. Politicians, I mean, when we were working on what's called HB 523, which is our medical marijuana bill that was passed in 2016, the way that we could, I mean, I worked on the 10 years calling on the legislature, trying to pass a bill, So finally, when a group got together and they had the signature drives going, they had the funding, it looks like they were going to make the ballot. The General Assembly's going, oh my God, they're going to actually put this on the ballot, and so that's what moved them.
Right.
That's what moved them. So when they once they if the bill passed the Senate, the ballot issue left the state.
Wow.
And we do have a program. So I mean, and I'm it is what it is, but it's better.
Right.
Sorry, Candace, I just say it. It's better than yours.
Yes. And ours is better than nothing. So I mean,
yeah. But see, we don't want that. We stop selling for the scraps here. We want something robust. We want something real. We want this as medicine. We want our patients to be taken care of, And so, I don't know. It just seems cruel to me to just keep slamming the door on. I actually saw a legislator. They were going door to door. It's probably around 2006. We're going door to door. Back when you could go door to door in legislative offices and visit different reps. I actually saw a rep slam the door in the face of an MS patient in a wheelchair. I mean, does it get lower than that?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, I love talking to those politicians. And, man.
I always say I can do this stuff because otherwise I'll just want to scream.
Right. No, we went. Okay, at COCW, we went and we did the whole lobbying thing, and went door to door and talked. They've all pretty much got their mind made up on what they're gonna do. They don't want to hear anything you have to say, pretty much, and they just turn their nose up to you. And I'm like, I don't understand. It's like they almost know that, I don't know. They know something we don't, that we don't, I don't know. We don't matter, basically, because they're not.
Let's say this. Your candidate for governor, Beto O'Rourke, is a very strong proponent of cannabis.
Right.
He, as a friend of mine, I don't know if you ever know who Dean Becker is. Do you ever know who Dean Becker is?
I don't know who Dean Becker, but I do know Beto.
Yeah, he runs a thing called the Drug Truth Network, and I did any number of, used to do radio shows for him, and 90 something, I think. And he kind of, maybe giving Dean way too much credit, but I think he appreciate when I say this. I think he almost cultivated Beto O'Rourke, because he showed him, here's harm reduction. Here's what marijuana looks like when it's legal. It's not scary. You embrace it.
Right.
And sure enough, Beto he was mayor of El Paso, and then he got to go to the U.S. Congress, and now he's running for governor. If he becomes your governor, I might move to Texas.
If I would just do anything to get Abbott the fuck out, like my personal opinion, that's my personal opinion, but
okay. So what I did next in my article, I wanted to put a statement in here as to what is it that we want, and so that was the next thing. It's like in kind of be a life or death situation, I'm a patient. All right. I've been a card holder for 5 years, but what happened between the last 5 years was I had cancer. And so I think I did this on a show before, to ameliorate the cancer, I used RSO. And
right.
Unfortunately in Ohio, it was very gratifying to me, because, and I didn't do this on purpose, but we passed the bill. I lobbied for decades on this stuff. So passed the bill until 2016. Yeah, and if it had been before that, you're at the mercy of the legal market, which is whatever. But it's not the same thing as the legal market. Where you say, okay, I got this bottle of RSO here, and it says it's 660 milligrams of THC, I think it is. I gotta remember this correctly, and blah blah blah. And you don't get that, and that it's tested, it's pure, and all that kind of stuff. You don't get that market. Well, I was really lucky. I would say lucky or blessed, or actually very smart. Instead of having chemotherapy, which I could go into, there's a whole other story there. I combined it. I used the RSO. And I like to report to everybody, I had the best 2 years. I know it was a pandemic. I feel guilty saying this. I feel horrible in some parts of me. I had the best 2 years of my life.
That's awesome.
Because I felt, it fixed like everything. I wasn't able to walk. I could walk. I could do about anything I wanted to do. And I'm no spring chicken. And so that was the beauty of this program to me, is that I won't say it saved, that's a little hyperbolic. Oh, it saved my life.
No, it does. It saved
it made my life.
It saved so many people, like Rick Simpson. And I know I got so many people on my Facebook that were stage 4 cancer survivors and just used RSO, and it's curing it. And I know they don't like us to say that. Don't say it. Why not? There are studies, they're proving it. Like, and you keep telling us that there ain't, but there are. All you got to do is go look, y'all. There are studies out there proving that it's working. And yeah, it may not work for everybody, but if it just saves 1 out of 10,
I think you can do better than that, because that's what chemotherapy is batting.
Right.
I was an analyst I say I was an analyst earlier. I was an analyst for the pharmaceutical industry. For a major marketer of cancer chemotherapy.
Wow.
Agents. And so, I know this market's soup to nuts. And I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't touch their stuff.
Right.
9 years ago, I'm not touching that stuff. No way.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of this. When you talk about life or death situation, here you have it. It's would I've survived it? I could have, but I looked at the side effects of the chemotherapy that they were trying to force me to take. Really, you get this hard marketing thing going, and I don't know if I'd been here. I think it would have killed me, honestly. And I think also that, but there's so many side effects that it messes with your brain, it messes with you get the peripheral neuropathy and things like that. And I avoided all that and had 2 great years.
It should be the first.
I'm working on my 3rd great year.
Yep. It should be the first option. They should have a cannabis trial on anybody that's found with cancer and see if that will help before they even touch the chemo poison.
Absolutely. Oh, totally.
Definitely. It's nuts. It really is.
Definitely. Okay, I'm going through here. I wanted what we seek is kind of what I was kind of like a manifesto of our movement. I could read it, or maybe later I could keep going. Just trying to say that this is really what we want. We said all the specifics is very personal. For general cannabis users, aficionados want respect. I want to be respected.
Yep.
I want to be free of threats to my security and freedom because of my association with the plant. You know, this is the things we want. I can come back to that and read it later if you want me to, because I think it's really important. But
Okay.
I put it in here because when we're framing this thing, and if we're going to talk to people, they say, "What do you really want?" I just want respect. I want to be treated like anybody else would be treated. I'm not a criminal. Don't treat me like a criminal, because
Yep.
I don't. Knock on wood, I have no arrest record. You know,
Right.
nothing. But you know, the mere fact that I might have THC in my blood, or the mere fact that I'm talking to you now, you can forget a lot of you know, important jobs and things like that out there, or you know, God forbid, you know, you have your banker watching you or something like that, and you don't have a bank account.
Right.
Stop the foolishness. Stop the foolishness. So the moral of the story is that what we must avoid reversing progress, and we want to vote in our self-interest. And so then we want to see the Candis community cast as responsible citizens. Okay, right?
Right.
We're responsible citizens here.
Yes. We have
We're
jobs
voters.
like everybody else. We don't sit on the couch and just get stoned and watch TV all day. We are doctors, we are lawyers, we are nurses, we are a community of very respected people. We just are scared to say we smoke because of our jobs.
Well, any association with cannabis, even those people who do the accounting for a cannabis company, get their bank accounts closed.
Right.
So this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. We want respect. You know, I've worked hard to do this. We're not hurting anybody. And what we are is what? Again, we are voters.
Oh yes, voters.
Voters. So there, you hear that, politicians? We are voters. So I'm looking at the methodology I use to put together my analysis. All right. I don't know if I could share my screen, I could put that up here if you want me to. I don't know if you think you'd want me to.
Yeah, you might be able to.
Let's see if I can
think
put this up here. Okay. Oh, you just have a screen sharing. Okay. But I was going to say, if I could put it up there, I could show you what the Canna candidates that I'm talking about.
Oh, do I need to change it? Is that what I got to do?
I think you did, because it's when I do it, it says it's been disabled. So I don't blame you for doing that.
Oh no.
Otherwise, I could just talk about it.
It's something I need to probably change that I haven't yet.
Okay,
It would be good if we could get it up there, but I don't know how to do it, so I don't want to try to do it right now. But
sure, no problem. We'll just talk about it then. Okay. So being the analyst that I am, and I'm not afraid of data. I like data. I like to
numbers don't lie.
It's like it's midnight. I need to crunch some numbers.
Right.
So I use these as my, I think it's 9 different entities as my sources. VoteSmart.org, Ballotopedia.org, VoteNormal.org, BuckeyeBallot.com, Ohio Capitol Journal, BallotReady.org, the Sensible Movement Coalition, and the search pages for the U.S. House of Representatives and the Ohio Legislature. I think I got a few sources there, and so I was able to go through and in the process of doing this analysis, identify who I felt using those metrics were the Canna. Well, I was kind of Canna things. So I call it the Canna candidates. Okay.
Yeah, Canna candidates.
Canna candidates. So walking through this, I'm gonna look for myself here so I can pull it up. Okay, walking through the server myself here. Okay, and this is in my article, so that if you're an Ohio voter, you haven't voted yet, and you want to know who your candidates are, you can find the articles in the chat, right?
Right.
So it's everything. When I write these articles, I link everything, so it's linked in there. Okay, it's probably, I think if you want to find it, it's one of the very first links in the article. Okay, very top of the article. So I was able to take a look at the candidate list here for Ohio, the Ohio ballot. And first poll is Tim Ryan. and he's running against a guy named J.D. Vance, who is a Trump-endorsed Republican. Um, I think the typical Republican stance, I'm not sure I have exactly on J.D. Vance per se. The typical Republican stance is the old drug war stance. You know, there's drugs running amok in America. You know, and I appreciate the fentanyl crisis is
Yeah.
killing people. Cannabis can help with the fentanyl crisis. Can it? Can it? Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
yes, and honestly, the big pharma caused the fentanyl and the opioid and all that. Like the heroin, it was all the painkillers they gave everybody, and then they took them away, and then they went to the street. And what do people want? They want pain pills now. So now fentanyl's becoming a problem because of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, and so, um, like I said, I think that they said J.D. Vance had some kind of connection to a pharmaceutical company that was making the fentanyl pills or something like that. Far as I'm concerned, when I look at my metrics, my analysis, you know, it was pretty easy to say Tim Ryan was my choice for the Senate because he has a position in right now in the U.S. House, and he has voted again for the MORE Act, the State Banking Act, and the Research Act. So that's showing that he's
Right.
actually was. I think he recently toured a cultivator in Youngstown. So tells me that this is a guy who's listening to us. So
Yeah.
he deserves our vote. Okay.
That's really going and researching himself, and that's what all we want. We're telling these politicians, don't freaking listen to us. You know, you don't believe what we say. Go look for yourself. Like,
Well, actually, I'd say, you know, verify. Yeah, trust but verify was the old. Who was that? Was it Richard Nixon? But nonetheless, but it is. Yeah, I want to trust what you say, but I'm going to verify it for myself.
right,
And
right.
sure enough, as I said, a guy like Tim Ryan, he checked all the boxes, and that's what I had in my source analyses. As I go in and I actually check the box. Okay, this is the people that
Right.
are favorable. They got a check mark, and that they ended up in this particular table I'm looking at right now. All right, for the U.S. House of Representatives, um, it's kind of like with these guys here. There's some really the ones that I've listed who are incumbents: Joyce Beatty, Marcy Kaptur, Chantel Brown, David Joyce, are all current representatives who voted for those three acts, as I said. David Joyce is the only Republican among them, but like I say, it's going to be fair here to everybody. You know, if you're a Republican and you're voting for the stuff that's helping us, then we want to vote for you back.
Right,
All
right.
right. Definitely want to do that. Now, when we have the District 1, 2, 4, and 5 candidates on that, and if I could pull that up real quickly, there were 4 guys, including Jim Jordan, who voted against none of them. None of them. I mean, they voted against everything. And I'm going to tell you, I'm reaching right now the guys that I have. This is the U.S. This is High House, the U.S. House. This is the High House. All right, they're the ones that I think that vote against. So, for example, Thomas Patton. I can stop here. Okay, don't vote for Thomas Patton is opposed. Omar Tazari, Thomas Patton, Jen Giro, Chris Monzel. These are all Republicans, by the way. And so they will have an X against their name. And like I say, I wish I could pull that up real quickly because I pull up over here. Oh, here it is. It's right that from me. I can better spell. I got it here. All right. The 4 who the one there's 1, 2, 4, and 5. Steve Shabbat, Brad Ryan, Wenstrup, Jim Jordan, and Bob Latta all voted against those 3 acts. All right, and all who had public statements opposed it. Now, one of the best tables that I found, it's a crazy thing that it is, to do this research was from the what is that place called? Christian something or other, something Christian. And these people are ardently against cannabis, but they put out one hell of a voter guide. They were very, very detailed. One of the questions was, do you support adult use? And of course, they're doing it for their voters, but I'm
Right.
going, that's mine.
Right.
Okay. I don't, if that's the source, and assuming that it's an accurate source, and I
Right.
would find the other ways that it was, then I'm going to go to the Christian people there and say, here's my sources of who I think you should not vote for. And these four guys, none of them voted for the bills I spoke about, and none of them were in favor of adult use. So if you're in these districts, this is part of the cannabis vote thing. Vote for somebody else. Vote for the opposition. So in District 1, that would be Greg Landsman. In District 2, Samantha Meadows. District 4, Tammy Wilson. She's running against Jim Jordan. And District 5, Craig Schwartz. And again, these are challengers for the Ohio U.S. House of Representatives. So that's on my candidates by office table. Now, next one here, we're going into the Ohio House of Representatives. Now, there's 100 representatives here, so I really don't want to go through every single one of them.
Yeah, and we're at 8:00. It's like an hour, so we do need to be kind of wrapping it up a little bit. I got
it's 8 o'clock. I have no idea what time it is.
No, you're good. I want to get everything in, and normally I wouldn't even care, but I do got to go get my daughter. She's at a Halloween event, so. But
absolutely. Well, what time? I'm time challenged. Oh,
no, you're good. 8:02 here.
Yeah. Ta-da.
But so
I'll wrap this up.
Normally I do a 30-minute show, but I went ahead and I've been doing I did the hour show because I knew this was important. We want to talk about this. But yeah, we are going on 8 o'clock now, so I want to make sure we're wrapping it up for everybody. People have
well, I'm going to go real quick.
You know?
So the House of that's kind of foregone. It's kind of same thing. But governor, if you're talking about Ohio governor, we just talked about DeWine. You want to look at Nan Whaley and her running mate, like Cheryl Stevens. Same with when you have, because the way Ohio is structured, you're going to have the same people running for the ancillary offices, the supporting offices, which are Secretary of State, Attorney General, Treasurer, and Auditor. Those are all the Democrats that I've listed on this table because, well, Democratic.
Right. I mean, you're telling
people General's kind of a crazy guy.
Right. You're telling people
he thinks everybody's on fentanyl.
Green, whether they're Democrat or Republican, and sometimes Democrats are going to be more for it than Republicans. So you're just telling people the truth, whether they're green or not. You're not being biased. So that's great.
The one thing I want to point out here to my Ohio listeners, I know you think the Supreme Court is so arcane, it doesn't mean anything, it's meaningless. This year is really meaningful. We have a situation where the Ohio maps were very gerrymandered, and we happen to have a justice on the Supreme Court who is a Republican but sided with the Democrats big time, trying to say, guys, this is gerrymandered, guys. And we even had a ballot issue a few years ago saying we're going to have fair districts. No. So the people that are listed here, I've listed here for the attorney for the Chief Justice Jennifer Bruner, Justices Marilyn Zayas and Terry Jameson, are the ones who are trying to stitch together the Supreme Court. There's a very important case that's going to come before the U.S. Supreme Court about how elections maps are drawn, and they're going to want to say that everything belongs to the state legislatures. There's like a state legislator doctrine or something like that. What that means is that if you defer to the state legislatures, you will always have gerrymandering. You will never, ever, ever be able to get it out of their hands. So it's very important that if you're listening to me right now, if you vote for nothing else, okay, vote for Tim Ryan, sure. But if you vote for nothing else, go and vote for those Supreme Court justices, Jennifer Bruno for the Chief Justice, and Marilyn Zayas and Terry Jameson for the Associate Justices. And finally, last but not least, my eternal plug for the marijuana decriminalization initiatives, which I think is one of the most powerful forces, I think, of any state. If you can do it in Texas, try to do it. If you do it in Ohio, we're being really successful. We've probably got 30-some cities decriminalized.
Oh, yeah.
What this basically means is it reduces the penalties in Ohio. Ohio's actually a decrim state,
right?
But it reduces it so that for 200 grams, I'm just like, what, my house, this is that. Let me do a quick map on me. It's no fine, no time.
Right.
And they think that, well, you know, these are conservative areas of the state where difficult to reach, you know, for, you know, the Democrats. Well, you know, here in these states, now they may or may not change their, and this is where I think that they ought to vote their conscience in who people who are in these areas. But nonetheless, in these areas, they've been accustomed to there are people going door to door saying, hey, would you sign my petition? They understand what it means to decriminalize marijuana in Ohio. And I think we ought to give them some credit, say, look, these people from the very grassroots have a good grasp on this. And don't be afraid of them. To go out there, embrace them and say, hey, just all you need to do is vote for the initiative and vote for a person who is cannabis supportive.
Got you. Vote green, y'all. Hell yeah.
So, I mean, I could keep, you want me to keep going and going and going?
Man, I would let you.
I think you want to get going.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. And you are welcome on the show anytime. Anytime you have an article coming out you'd like to come talk about, or we really appreciate everything you're doing for the cannabis community. And thank you so much for explaining all that to us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I hope everybody got something out of it. Mostly, I hope that everybody's going out there and voting.
Oh, yeah.
I want to encourage everybody, every cannabis person to vote, read my article. And even if you don't, vote anyway. Just make sure that your voice is heard. Be a part of the system. And if we do this collectively, things will change.
For real, for real. How do people get a hold of you if they want to follow you or ask a question or?
Well, my email address is pretty simple. My name is Mary Jane Borden, just like you see there, all one word. Okay, Mary Jane Borden @gmail.com. I'm on Facebook under that name, but I think my name's glommed together. No, yeah,
it's Mary Jane, one word.
Is Mary Borden. My real name is Mary Jane.
That's
born
awesome.
with that darn name, you know. Curse my daddy. No, don't curse my daddy. He's a great guy. But that's how I
love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mary. And like I said, open invitation. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Heck yeah, y'all. That was Mary Jane Borden. And I know I'm coming on 8 o'clock. That was very informative, very good information. Normal is a good place to go for Texas to find out what to vote for and who's pro cannabis and who's not for our state. So if you haven't voted yet, vote green, y'all. The Republican, Democrat, you know, it doesn't matter. Are they supporting cannabis? Are they supporting the things that you want? Make sure you figure that out before you vote, and don't be afraid. Just go vote. You can, your vote matters, and you can make a difference. So I love y'all. I will see y'all next Monday, and have a nice Halloween day. Peace.